So I was chatting with a friend of mine who does YouTube full time, and she said something kind of offhand that really got me thinking. And what she said was,
Graham Stephan could honestly make a video of himself folding his socks and people would still watch it.
and so that got me thinking. I mean, what is it about Graham Stephan's videos that has really gotten people so hooked and allowed him to really blow up over the last couple years? But better yet, how could I or anyone use those same strategies to grow on YouTube? So in this video, I'll be breaking down the anatomy of every Graham Stephan video and how you can use his same strategies to grow your channel on YouTube. And it wouldn't be a video about Graham Stephan if I didn't ask you to smash the like button, so I guess you better do that for the YouTube algorithm. Now let's dive right on in and start off with the overarching topic of videos that Graham Stephan makes. So when he first started off, Graham Stephan was only making real estate videos specifically for real estate agents, then he expanded into real estate investing, and now he's kind of a broad personal finance channel. He can get away with posting things about the stock market, about the real estate market, about credit cards, and his audience is going to watch those videos. Now, the quick moral here is that you want to start small and expand from there. If he would have just started off as a broad personal finance channel, it likely would have been harder for him to get that initial foothold. Whereas, since he started off specifically talking real estate, he was able to get that initial foothold and then build from there by adding additional topics over time.
Is that all you got?
Now that's all pretty straightforward stuff. I mean, I'm sure you've heard, start with a niche, build out from there, but in Graham Stephan's case, that's exactly what he did, and it's worked very well for him so far. But the main topic of honestly every Graham Stephan video really boils down to a simple personal finance topic that he is able to dress up. And when I say dress up, I kind of mean wrap it into either a personal story or a news story. So the video like this one, for example, he's talking about taxes, but he's doing so in a way that wraps it into a larger story about himself that keeps you interested. Because if he just made a video about quarterly estimated tax payments, nobody's going to watch that. Well, at least not as many people as would watch a video that says why I owe the IRS $1.5 million, you know? So what it really boils down to is he's taking this complex personal finance topic and he's boiling it down to something simple, something that gets people interested,
Gets the people going.
and that hooks their attention right off the bat by using stories. And what I've really gotten from this is that telling stories is so important because people love listening to stories. We've been listening to stories for, I mean, ever since there were people, you know, like people have been telling stories and our brains are just programmed to really get interested in stories. So if you can structure your content around a story, whether it's a personal story, whether it's a story in the news, these things are extremely effective at hooking people's attention and keeping them watching throughout the entire video, because that is something that Graham is very good at. He's good at retaining the audience. He doesn't lose people, and we're going to talk more about why that is as we go on. Now, the next important thing to dissect is the title and the thumbnail of Graham Stephan videos, and this stuff is honestly a work of art. I am always blown away at the titles and thumbnails that Graham comes up with, and a lot of my own titles and thumbnails are somewhat modeled after the principles that he lays out in his. And I think you can really sum up the Graham Stephan title and thumbnail strategy in 4 words, and that is anything for the click. He is very ruthless at getting people to click on his videos, and his titles and thumbnails are very effective at this purpose. The purpose of the title and thumbnail is to get the click, okay? It's not to do anything else, okay? Because the title and the thumbnail get the click, and then once they have the click, your video has to retain them. So you really want to, and Graham Stephan does a great job at getting these attractive titles and thumbnails that really get people to click on them, and then once the video starts, that's when he gets into the selling the actual video. Now, there's typically not going to be many words, if any words, on Graham Stephan thumbnails, and that is for good reason. I mean, most people are on YouTube on their phones, and so when they're scrolling through, it's going to be really hard if you're packing your thumbnail full of text to read this stuff. He also keeps them very simple, which I think is extremely effective for him. He'll occasionally toss some numbers on there, but usually it's just his face. Usually his mouth is open. He's got some kind of like aghast expression, and they really convey the message of the video without giving it away. Because like I said, the thumbnail and the title are to sell the click, and the video itself is to actually sell the information and to keep the viewer around throughout the entire duration. It's also super interesting to watch the title and the thumbnail change during the first 30 or so minutes of a Graham Stephan video going live. It's very clear that he pays a lot of attention to his click-through rate, which is the rate at which people are clicking based on the title and the thumbnail, and he knows what his target is for his click-through rate, and if it's not hitting that level, then he's consistently changing, and I'm sure he's got a couple different backup titles and thumbnails ready.
Another one.
when he posts a video so that if he doesn't hit that target.
Another one.
Now, I tried to get some screenshot examples of this, but I wasn't fast enough to grab any. But if you do stay tuned to Graham's channel once he posts, you might find that he is changing these things in the first 30 or so minutes. But now let's get into the actual video structure, because this is where things get really interesting. So obviously he starts with this consistent intro.
What's up, you guys? It's Graham here.
And sometimes he'll be a little bit quirky with this, swap up the words a little bit.
What's up here, guys? It's Up Graham.
But for the most part, you know that with every Graham Stephan video, you're getting that intro right off the bat. This is huge for brand building and good for building habits with his viewers, because when he starts the video off the exact same way every single time, it's ingraining that into his viewers' heads and it's building that habit further and further. Then immediately he's going into the problem, okay? Because he wants to set the problem from the beginning so that you are hooked, okay? So every single Graham Stephan video is going to start with a problem. And that's probably a problem that you have.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to ride.
Because he wants to set up this problem, show you that you have this problem, and then kind of show you how he's going to solve this problem for you.
Now wherever there's carpet, blast off with fun slides.
So he gives you the problem, that's gonna hook you, and then he emphasizes why this problem is important and why you should actually be focused on solving it. So here's a quick example of what I'm talking about.
However, even during this incredible rally, people are still making a very significant mistake with how they invest their money. And if you're doing this, which I have a feeling applies to a lot of people watching, that is going to be a mistake that's going to cost you a lot of money.
So once he's giving you the problem and why it's important, then he's going to hit you with the 1, 2, 3 punch of how he's going to solve the problem, okay? And this is a Graham Stephan art. It's a staple in every single one of his videos. And once I've said it, I'm sure you're going to notice it every single time he does it. But here's a quick example of what I'm talking about with that 1, 2, 3 punch.
But when I see people asking for more tax videos explaining exactly how it works, what you could do to save more money at the end of the year, and some legal life hacks that you could do on your taxes to save more money, I'll listen and I'll make that exact video right here.
Now, the whole purpose of this intro bit here is to be super relatable. He wants to put the problem into your own words and the words that you would use to describe this exact problem, because there's this saying out there, I think it reigns really true, and it is,
he who best describes the problem is assumed to have the best solution.
okay? Because when someone really understands what your problem is, you assume that they know exactly how to solve it. So that's what Graham Stephan is trying to do in the first, usually 60 or so seconds of his video, is again, set that hook with the problem, tell you why it's important, and then hit you with the 1, 2, 3 punch of how he is going to solve that problem for you throughout the next 15 or so minutes of his video. He's also going to tell you to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, which he claims to have over a 100% increase in the number of likes on a video, which I think makes a lot of sense. You know, when you tell people to do something, they're a lot more likely to do it than if you just expect them to do it. So in all honesty, if you skip to about the 1 minute mark of a Graham Stephan video, you're not really going to miss anything in terms of the content. And this is pretty standard across YouTube, okay? In general, the rule of thumb is kind of the first 10 to 20% of every video is going to be fluff, and so you can generally skip over that without really needing to worry. Now, I think Graham is really good at keeping this section as short as possible. Some people will really let it stretch on. They'll have these long intros, they'll just ramble and ramble, and so Graham's really good at keeping this to about the 1 minute to 1 minute and 15 second mark, and keeping it to 10% or less of his videos, not letting it stretch on too long. And so what I really get out of Graham Stephan's intros is that you need to hook people as quickly as possible and then get right on into the content. You don't want to spend any longer than you need to setting that hook. Once the hook is set, don't stay there any longer than you need to and just hop right on in to the actual video. And Graham talks a lot about the amount of time that he spends on the first minute of his video.
I spend a very long time in the first minute of the YouTube video because I feel like the first minute is really the most powerful. You can lose 90% of your audience in just the first minute and you're never gonna get them back to that video.
These things are very well engineered. When you start watching a lot of these things, it's super clear how he has these things structured, and you can really learn a lot from just watching the first like 60 or so seconds of Graham Stephan videos, because he really puts a lot of effort into those sections. Now, once you get past the intro, I find that pretty much every single Graham Stephan video has a pretty strong story arc of a beginning, a middle, and an end that he tends to follow. So let's dive into what that tends to look like. With the beginning, like I said, he's usually jumping right into a story. So that's either a personal story, a news story, or like a brief history lesson, which is also a story. This is really effective because Graham Stephan is primarily an education channel, and he needs to get people feeling like they're learning as quickly as possible, or they're going to bounce. So whether or not you're actually learning from his videos, you're gonna feel like you're learning because he's giving you some kind of story, some kind of information right off the bat that's getting those gears turning. Now, his videos aren't about teaching actionable lessons. People on YouTube don't usually have the attention span for that. And then we switch scenes because Graham Stephan wants to make sure that his viewers are consistently engaged, and so he's switching scenes about every 60 to 90 seconds. Now, the point of Graham Stephan videos is not to teach actionable content for the most part, because most people on YouTube, especially when you're appealing to a broad audience like he is, are not there to learn actionable steps. They're not there for the top 10 tax deductions. They're there to learn why he owes the IRS $1.5 million. Because most people on YouTube don't have the attention span for that, and you want to make sure that you're not giving them time to start looking for other videos. You want to make sure that your video is so engaging, is so capturing, that they are not looking over on that sidebar, scrolling through the extra videos that they could be looking at. And so the beginning of the videos is really getting people into that learning mindset, hooking them with the story, and then progressing into the middle. And the middle is generally a pretty well-researched argument that's built around 3 to 5 core points. So when you outline a Graham Stephan video, you'll see there's usually a main argument, and then he's got supplemental points to kind of prove to you why that argument is true. And so all of these points include statistics and news stories to back up what he is saying and to show you as the viewer that he has researched it and that it is factual. He's also going to mix in some lessons, some examples, just to keep you engaged and show you how to apply the things that he's talking about in context. So I think this one is a great example of what I'm talking about here and kind of the lessons that he intertwines within his videos.
Think about it for a second. There's a $150,000 price difference between the two, and the only variable here is the interest rate. Well, if you guessed the $450,000 home would be cheaper, well, you would be right.
The moral of this lesson is that even though real estate prices are going up, it can actually become cheaper to buy a house, which is a relatively simple lesson, but one that a lot of people don't understand how it could actually work. So he's able to effectively break this down in a very simple way that most people are going to be able to understand and learn from. While at the same time, they don't have to do that much thinking because it's all kind of laid out right there for them, and Graham is doing most of the work for you. So that section tends to last usually about 10 minutes, and then we're getting towards the end of the video. Now, usually the end of a Graham Stephan video, it kind of ties everything up with a bow and gives his final opinions on the topic in question. And in all honesty, I feel like this is really the most valuable section of a Graham Stephan video because you're getting the core of his opinion without the fluff of the news stories. Because in general, I mean, I think this dude has a lot of really cool opinions and I like to hear those, but I don't necessarily need to sit around for 12 minutes of news stories and updates on stuff that I was already pretty familiar with. In this section, he's also going to leave the viewer with kind of 1 to 2 easy takeaways that they can go out into the world with and remember without having to like take notes on the video as they're watching it.
Writing down notes is a small fraction of this.
So he really boils things down to, again, his opinion and then 1 to 2 key takeaways that you can easily remember and take with you. And I've honestly got to give the man so much props for what he's been able to do. I mean, getting 800,000 people interested in taxes just blows my mind because, like, as someone who is a huge personal finance nerd myself, I studied this stuff in school, I took the CFP exam, like, I am so into personal finance, and so it is so cool to see someone like Graham who's able to get hundreds of thousands of people interested in this stuff that is so important and in general is just neglected by society as a whole. But at the same time, I've got to wonder how many of those same people would still be watching if it was just a video of Graham folding his socks. Now, the next thing you should do is click the subscribe button down below and check out this video where I dive into more exciting personal finance content that I'm sure you're going to enjoy if you liked this video. I'll see you over there.